They told me I was nothing more than the cook, worthless, just there to chop vegetables and stir pots. And so, I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving dinner. But the very next day, when they came crawling, begging for my help, they had no idea that the person they had humiliated was about to make them pay in the most public, unforgettable way possible. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, or treated like you didn't matter, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, and comment below if you believe in sweet, well-earned justice. Trust me, this story is one where karma isn't subtle, it's brutal, calculated, and unforgettable. Let's get into it. I had always loved Thanksgiving. Growing up, it wasn't just about the food, it was the laughter, the family drama, the little rituals that made life feel like it had some kind of rhythm. But this year, everything changed. My parents had decided that I was just a cook, not a daughter who deserved to sit at the table, not someone worthy of their pride or even a polite conversation. "Why should you sit with us? You're just cooking," my father said, and the words felt like a punch to my chest. My mother didn't stop him, she barely even looked at me. That day, I was relegated to the kitchen, invisible. My presence was only useful for peeling potatoes, basting turkey, and making sure the cranberry sauce didn't burn. I spent hours in the kitchen, chopping, stirring, tasting, cleaning, every motion mechanical, every smile forced. And all the while, I could hear the laughter of my siblings and cousins, the clinking of wine glasses, the casual joy that I was barred from sharing. There was a hollowness in me that I had never felt before, a mixture of anger, humiliation, and a deep, cold determination. By the time dinner was over, I had made a decision. I wasn't just going to let this pass. I wasn't going to sit quietly and be ignored. There would be a reckoning, but it had to be smart, precise, and impossible to ignore. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The next morning, my parents were at my door, sheepish, trying to pull me into their little schemes. They had a favor, they wanted me to do something trivial on the surface, but for them, it was a lifeline to preserve appearances. And that's when I remembered my sister's fiancé, Jeremy. Jeremy was a sharp, observant man, the kind who notices things most people overlook. And he had been around long enough to know family dynamics, secrets, and tensions. In a flash, I realized, if I played this right, I could expose the hypocrisy, the lies, and the blatant disrespect my parents had shown me, not just privately, but publicly, in a way that would leave no room for denial. I smiled inwardly. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was the quiet, obedient girl in the kitchen. But now, I had the perfect stage and the perfect witness. That morning, I acted normal. I greeted them politely, offered coffee, laughed at their jokes, but every word was carefully measured. I let them assume they were in control. They even started complaining about small things, typical parental arrogance, talking down to me, expecting me to fix their little problems. I nodded, smiled, and took notes mentally. And then, Jeremy arrived. I could see it in his eyes immediately. He was skeptical. He didn't need to say anything, but I knew he'd noticed the tension. I let it build subtly. I let my parents underestimate me. I let them relax, thinking they had won again. And then I let the truth slip, casually at first, almost like an aside. I mentioned how Thanksgiving had gone. I described the way I had been banned from the table, relegated to the kitchen, and treated like I was invisible. I painted it vividly, the laughter I couldn't join, the little insults, the way my mother ignored my presence. Jeremy's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. His eyes narrowed, and I knew he was processing. He asked a few questions, careful, probing, like a detective sensing a story worth investigating. I answered calmly, each detail more damning than the last, my voice steady, controlled. And then, I watched the wheels turn. It was subtle at first, a raised eyebrow here, a tense smile there. My parents thought they were charming him, bending him to their side. But Jeremy had heard enough. He had seen enough. And the next move was mine to guide. During the conversation, I mentioned, offhandedly, how some family secrets shouldn't be ignored, especially when someone's wedding day was at stake. My parents laughed nervously, trying to steer the discussion away, but it was too late. Jeremy had connected dots they didn't even realize existed. By the time dessert was over, Jeremy had made a decision. He turned to my parents, a quiet, almost serene fury in his voice. "I can't go through with this," he said. The words were calm, almost chilling. "If this is how your family treats each other, disrespecting, humiliating, excluding those who give everything, then I can't be part of it. Not for a wedding, not for a lifetime." My parents' faces went pale. My mother stammered, tried to protest. My father's jaw clenched. I sat silently, sipping tea, letting it sink in. They hadn't just been caught, they had been exposed, publicly, in front of someone who mattered. It was poetic justice. They had tried to belittle me, dismiss me, render me invisible, and now, their grand event, the wedding they had been planning and controlling, was falling apart because of the truth they had so desperately tried to hide. I felt a strange, almost surreal satisfaction. Not joy in their pain, but a profound sense of vindication. The scales had been balanced. For once, their arrogance had real consequences. And it was because I had stayed calm, collected, and smart. I had let their own actions set them up for the fall. Jeremy thanked me quietly later, with a small nod, acknowledging that I had been right, that the truth had mattered more than appearances. And as he walked away, I realized something even deeper. Revenge isn't about anger. It's about clarity, timing, and letting justice unfold naturally. By the end of the day, the wedding was officially off. My sister was heartbroken. Yes, but she was finally seeing the truth of our family dynamics. My parents were left scrambling, humiliated not just by me, but by the one person who had been closest to their dreams, their son-in-law-to-be. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't reckless. I was precise. Every detail, every word, every subtle cue had been carefully calculated. And the payoff, their stunned, speechless faces, was perfect. Sometimes life doesn't reward patience, it rewards strategy. And sometimes the most satisfying victories are the ones you don't announce. They happen quietly, invisibly, and leave the perpetrators to confront their own mistakes. If this story reminded you of a time you were underestimated, comment below. Share this video with someone who loves a story of clever, well-earned revenge. And don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes seeing justice done is the best story of all.